You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians, you can go online at beardedtheologians.com, where we have past podcasts, blogs, and a couple items for sale. So check us out, beardedtheologians.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold. And today we continue on with our Pastor Appreciation Month podcast series, where we've invited a handful of different voices and guests on to talk about pastor appreciation. And today we have a very special guest with us, a friend of the podcast and just friend in real life. I could see this individual from time to time, and we do a lot of work together here in our area. We have with us Dr. Amy Go. Amy, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be with you guys.
Yeah. Would you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? You know, who you are, where you're from, what your favorite movie is? I don't know.
Oh gosh, favorite movie. I'll have to think about that for a moment. But as you mentioned, I'm Amy Go. I am a layperson, and the local church that I go to is Smoky Hill United Methodist Church in Centennial, Colorado. And I have got two young elementary aged kids
who are absolutely adorable. You all sent me some videos at the beginning of the pandemic to do some children's thing, and they're team players.
They are, and they loved doing that. Actually, it was wonderful.
Yeah, they're so much fun. Well, we wanted to get you on this week for the podcast to talk about pastor appreciation from the lay perspective. We've kind of beat that horse to death from clergy end, but wanted to get your perspective on what this month means, what appreciating your pastor means to you, and maybe some ways that you've done that in the past, which I can share some ways you've done it, but I'll let you talk first.
Well, I mentioned that I'm a layperson, but I didn't describe what I do for a living. But just to be very general, I am an individual that's in a caring profession and currently work in a hospital setting. So obviously, in caring professions in general, all of us are tired because of the pandemic and all of the things that have gone on during the pandemic. So with that in mind, I have grown to appreciate even more so appreciation and sharing appreciation for others. And it doesn't matter how you do it. It could be something as small as making a batch of cookies, or it could be bigger, like taking your pastor out for lunch, or whatever you feel called to do.
Let me tell you, I can speak from experience. A giant box of cookies and bread coming through the mail is pretty fantastic.
Especially when it's a surprise, right?
100%. Yeah, no, that's something that Amy did for me, whom I'm not her pastor in real life, right? But we're friends, and we get to be in community together in these spaces, and that means a lot for you to reach out in such a way. It did not help my Beltline to eat all of that. Shared minimally with my children, but not much. but it makes, it just little gestures like that make us. I felt seen, very much so, and just a little gift like that.
So what are some ways, and you shared with us, like, kind of just that feeling of like caring for those that care. You've been in the church for a while. How are some ways that your church has kind of handled that, like just on a grand scale, as people could see, in the congregation?
That's a really good question, because we probably don't do enough of our sharing of appreciation. It's more on an individual level at my local church. And I wish we did it differently and better, honestly, because there are so many things that we could do. We have had a couple of situations where we have come together to support our pastors in various ways in terms of appreciation and supporting them. For example, right prior to starting the new appointment season, our pastor lost a sibling, and that unfortunately has happened again during the pandemic. So we've come together and done things like providing meals and travel support and whatever other things that we could do as a congregation to show that we care for them as an individual.
That's huge, holding that space, especially in time of grief. Our churches up in Montana did that for us, and I know Matt's experienced this as well when we lost loved ones. And just churches and communities holding that space for you just to be. And I know that's a place that you've held for me, a little bit in grief, but a lot of it in just being human, right? You hold space for me, and I appreciate it when because there aren't many lay people out there, one that pastors can trust in a way just to be human and be who we are, and just live into that fully, right? And folks like you who hold that space for us is huge, especially when it comes to being frustrated and being able to talk through a pandemic on multiple levels. You knowing the experience of it in the hospital world is far greater of an experience than we've had in the church, but it's nice to have some commonality there, just to text and be like, you know what, I'm tired. This week's been rough. We need you. We need people like you in our lives, and you're hard to come by.
Yeah, you mentioned that I've been in the church for a long time, and in fact, a really long time, because sometimes I joke that I've been part of the United Methodist Church even before I was actually born, because I come from a long line of Methodists, and actually I do have clergy within my my extended family. So I totally get that we all need moments to be human, and you as pastors really are actual people.
No.
Oh, it's like, did you guys ever see like elementary teachers when you were in elementary school outside of school, either like with their family at the grocery store or other places, and you're like, oh my gosh, they exist beyond the school.
They need milk too.
They take their kids to dance.
Yep. Yeah. I do. I very much remember that. And I remember seeing, before I was working in the church, I remember seeing pastors out and about and having similar feelings of like, this is weird. And then I find myself having to as a pastor, reintroduce myself to people, because they see me like this on Sunday. If you're not watching the podcast, I'm wearing a suit and a bow tie today. And when I'm out in public, hat, t-shirt, whatever. And they're like, I think I know you. Yeah, I'm your pastor.
It's even harder now that we're all wearing masks too, right?
Right. Yep. You get to know this much of people.
And that's why, I remember just recently, noticed before COVID, I was making a hospital visit, and it was an impromptu call. I just happened to be in Tulsa that day, and I was in shorts and a t-shirt, and the person just couldn't, they were like, who is this? Like, who is this guy? And I'm like, you probably don't recognize me outside of my robe. And so, I think that's one of the things that I've noticed. I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up Methodist. Wasn't called to be a United Methodist pastor at the age of 5. I always joke that my mom did a great job of making me Methodist, because she modeled what it meant to be Methodist before I knew what Methodism was, because she was a good old Methodist, but would model that for us. And I think that, one of the things we forget, and Zach and I both have kids, when we go to school events and stuff, like, that kind of does end up being part of our job, because that's us in the mission field.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes, we'll talk to you and we'll do that, but we also need time away from all that stuff too. And I'm getting ready to head off again, and hopefully I'll get to see you next week to go see Zach be commissioned. But I'm able to do that because I have the space to be able to do that and break away. And I think that that's the greatest gift that laity can give clergy, is that permission to, hey, unwind. you know, like you don't have to do this 80 hours. Like we don't want you to work all the time. We'll bear that load for you. I remember when my mom was towards the end of her life, the most powerful gift that the church I was at the time gave me was the permission to go be with her, and that they would take care of the church. And, you know, we actually flourished because of it. And I think that that has been lost in this kind of way of doing church, that the pastor must be always in his office working 80 hours a week. And I think that the greatest gift laity can give us is that gift of space, and saying, you know, you don't have to do that much. Like we need to be bearing some of that load. As you think about like what you see, because you're in a unique position of being able to see a lot within your annual conference, what are some things maybe you've seen that maybe you'd either like to try or just throw out there for people that might be listening? And, you know, I know that, you know, by the time this airs, we only have like 2 or 3 days left in October, but, you know, I think pastor appreciation can be something that can be a year-long thing and not something that's just a hallmark month of the year. What are some things you see or have, you know, would like to try?
Well, maybe not personally, because sometimes I hate public speaking, but when you were talking about having space to be with your parents or your mom, one of the things I think that lady can do, especially in times of when, you know, the pastor can't be in the office all the time, which is, I agree, not something that you should do, but you don't also have to be on the pulpit every single Sunday, right? So that's another thing that laity can step up and do in the local church, is to share that space and give a sermon every once in a while if they feel called. And probably just like what I said, oh, I'm not a good public speaker. You don't have to be, but it's a challenge to lean into, to be brave and step up to call the call.
Absolutely. It's just one of the, when people offer to whether it's to pray or to preach or just to be involved in the worship service at any rate, it's so encouraging, right? Because so much of that, it rightfully falls on our shoulders, but it's just that reminder for us that, oh, people care, not only about their church and the folks that are there, but about us and being in community and relationship with us as we lead those things. And to be in the pulpit 52 times a year, or really it's about 56 when you count all the special services. It's a lot. That's a lot. And do we really have that much to say year in and year out, right? And so it's nice when other voices step up and they're like, hey, we got this one, you know, let us give you some time to go be with family, or to just go hide in the wilderness, or go sit on the lake, or whatever it is, right?
And messages also come across very differently when it's coming from a layperson who is seen as a peer in the church rather than the actual leader. So same message could come across very, very differently. Yep.
So if you got lay people who are willing to say the hard things. No, that's exactly right. It's a lot like, you know, when we teach our kids and tell our kids not to do something, or, you know, give them instructions and they don't listen, and you know, the teacher or the coach or, you know, the sweet little lady in the church says it and they listen. It's like, well, okay. You know, sometimes it just takes a different voice. I love that. Well, I mean, thank you. Do you have any final parting words for our listeners?
Not to just do Pastor Appreciation Month in October. Do it all year long. Amen. Spread the love.
Send boxes of cookies. We like it.
And if you'd really like to send boxes of cookies to the Bearded Theologians, just send us a direct message and we'll be glad to give you our addresses, because we love cookies. So,
what's your favorite kind of cookie, Matt?
I'm a chocolate chip cookie kind of guy, but I eat any and all cookie. I do not discriminate against cookies.
Highly recommend brownie cookies. I like chocolate chip cookies, and I guess they're called chocolate brownie cookies. The two that you sent me, phenomenal. I did not share. Matt tried, and I didn't give him one.
You could have given him one, Zach.
Mm-mm.
No, that's not what he does. And
I was being appreciated, not him.
The box was to you.
That's right. Had my name on it.
Although I did put in my letter to you to share with your family, didn't I?
I did share with my family.
I know where I'm at in our relationship, so
You're not family, apparently, Matt.
I'm not there yet. No. So, Amy, we thank you for your time. And we want to encourage our listeners to go to our website at beardedtheologians.com. We've got all sorts of great past podcasts, and you can even buy some kind of pastor appreciation month. Hey, if you miss the month, Christmas is coming. And so what a better way of sharing love to your pastor than buying them some Bearded Theologians gear. And so, we want to thank you for listening, and let us know that you're listening in the comments or however else you listen. Give us those 5 stars or thumbs up or whatever platform you're using uses. Rate us. That helps us get our message out there. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
First, guys, I want you to subscribe and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.